Welcome to the latest Motley Fool scoreboard. I'm on in Chalk Balloon. We've got longtime fools, Jason Hall and Rick Menares, giving a 1 to 10 rating to the Kleenex of alternative decking. It's Trex, ticker symbol TREX. We'll hit the business first, rating its business, including factors like industry and competition. A 10 is invincible. A 1 is hopeless. They're giving high scores. Rick's at a 9. Jason's at an 8. We'll start with Jason.
Yeah, I wanted to go higher, and I can make the case for going higher. But the reason I'm dinging it is, despite the fact that this is the leader in its industry, the most profitable company, has the largest market share, and also still has a ton of room to continue growing, I'm going with an 8 because there is a lot of seasonality and cyclicality in the business, in its industry, and because of that, it keeps it from being like the perfect kind of business with recurring steady revenues at all states. That's the only reason I'm dinging it. Everything else is wonderful. Incredible culture, great leadership. They absolutely know who their customer is, and they know how to serve them really, really well.
I went with the 9 that Jason left behind. To me, it all started with a park bench made of sawdust and plastic bags. Today, Trex is the undisputed leader of composite decking. It's a win-win for a premium price product. Environmentalists obviously enjoy that a product that consists of 95% recyclable materials is good for the planet. And I don't mean to knock on wood, but homeowners looking to extend their outdoor living space, they're paying more up front for a Trex product, but they know, unlike wood that has to be maintained every year, they're having this essentially maintenance-free outdoor living space. There are cheaper options than composite decking, and even within composite decking than Trex, but it's a leader, and it's seemingly the only brand in this market that's a household name.
Yeah, it's made for me. Let's talk about management. A 10 is Warren Buffett. A 1 is Homer Simpson. Rick's at a 7. Jason's at the higher 8.
Yeah, the thing that's so impressive to me about Trex is if you go from the founding of the business and into the mid-2000s, it was a company that became very troubled. They had issues with their product. There were some big lawsuits that they dealt with. And Ron Kaplan came in and turned the business around, saved the business, and really began doing all of the things that Trex should be able to do well, and also making it incredibly profitable and a great investment at the same time. There have been 3 CEOs since Ron Kaplan resigned, or since Ron Kaplan retired. The performance of the business, like the key things that they do really well, have continued. That says a ton about the strong culture they have of finding the right people, training and empowering them, and then doing what I think is probably maybe the second hardest thing for a company to do behind good capital allocation, and that's really good succession planning. It is so rare for companies to do it well over and over again. Another thing I like too about management is they've been willing to kind of take some big swings to grow and expand. They haven't been successful. Like the commercial railing business, they were in for a few years and they exited. They made an initiative to sell recycled poly pellets, like use their process to sell excess material. Neither of those panned out, but they were not business risking. They were low risk, high potential upside bets. That says a lot about management. They're willing to take those bets, but not risk the company when doing it.
Yeah, so Brian Fairbanks, he's the latest. He's the president and CEO. He's been there since April 2020. The stock's up about 50% since he got there. So, okay, performance. I went with a 7 here. So he's been at Trex for 20 years. So to me, he's been working in leadership positions across various segments of the company. I like to see that when it's an insider that sort of had a taste of everything. The longtime CEO that he succeeded, James Klein, is still around as the board chairman. The only reason I didn't go higher is because Fairbanks only has a 62% CEO approval rating from employees on Glassdoor, and I'd like to look a little closer into that.
Financials time. A 10 is a fortress. A 1 is yikes. Both of you have an 8. Go for it, Rick.
Yeah, so revenue is going to be volatile. It's a cyclical industry, but Trex is surprisingly steady on the bottom line. This is a company that's been profitable for 13 consecutive years. Net income has moved higher in all but one of those years. And Trex, it also isn't afraid to eat its own sawdust. Its diluted share count is declining for the 11th year in a row. It's reduced its share count by 20% in that time, so it's been a little nibbling. But I definitely like to see a company that believes in itself in that way.
Yeah, it's really hard for businesses that are as seasonal as outdoor decking sales is, with the cyclicality that it's hyper focused on the housing market, which is a very cyclical market, to deliver those kind of financial results. And the key is that you look at what they do. They're rigorous about costs, managing those costs, leveraging their pricing power in ways that they can to be the most profitable in their segment. They're really, really good at that. But they're also smart at managing working capital. And that's like a key to getting through the seasonality of the business. Using debt to manage is a big part of their working capital when they're going through inventory build, to actually selling in the spring and through the summer. It's a really smart way to kind of manage the balance sheet. And if you look at the balance sheet, it's really lean. Like the one thing that continually grows is their inventory over the long term. They keep a minimal amount of cash because they use that revolver for their working capital. And they're pretty smart about keeping that debt paid down as low as they can and not carrying it over from year to year and increasing the expense to manage that debt. Really, really strong financials. Management does a good job of keeping the balance sheet strong.
All right, Jason, let's move on to valuation. How well will Trex stock do over the next 5 years, and how safe is it? 10 is a sure thing, 1's a lottery ticket.
So my safety score is a 7 here. I think it's relatively safe. Again, the cyclicality and the seasonality keeps me from scoring it higher because 5 years is a long time. But if we're in a housing downturn in 5 years, that could really hyper hit this sort of stock a lot. I love the business. I'm expecting 10 to 15% returns. Some tailwinds. Rick talked about the things with the environmentally friendly product. The tailwinds for an aging housing stock. People need to spend money to maintain and improve and replace decks. I think those things are really positive for it. They've done an incredible job, and they continue to build a deeper and bigger distribution network, especially focused on the professionals in the decking industry. I think you put all that together, and that's where I come to that 10 to 15 and that 7 for the safety score.
Yeah, I'm close. I'm at the 10 to 15% that Jason is. I went with an 8 for my safety score. So Trex, they're coming off a rough quarter. It reported a 23% decline in revenue in its third quarter, but that's entirely the handiwork of a $70 million channel inventory reduction. I like Trex over the next 5 years. Interest rates are finally starting to move lower, and that should breathe new life into the housing market, and that's good for Trex. When there's turnover in the residential real estate market, there are people saying, you know what would really make this backyard special? And that's where Trex comes in. They have some short-term debt and some lease obligations, but it really has no long-term debt that I'm really concerned about. So I like Trex here, and I feel it's safer than people think.
It's top it time. Jason, is there a company in Trex's space you like more?
Yeah, in the niche, there's not a company that I like more. Trex is the best. There's no getting around that. But I think investors who like Trex should look at AZEK too. It makes TimberTech. That's the second biggest brand in composite decking by market share and a really great product. But it also makes the AZEK brand of composite and PVC building products. Those are lower margin, but I like the diversification. And again, the aging housing stock, all of those tailwinds are really good. I've used some of the AZEK products in my own 30-year-old house. I think those are things that are really favorable for AZEK, and it should get a look too.
Yeah, in my case, again, Trex, I love companies that have differentiated products and command premium prices. So I can't think of anyone better in outdoor living or flooring stock than Trex. But if I was about to use those same traits and sort of look at the real estate recovery where people are going to want to, spruce up their homes and get new things because of the recovery, a company with similar traits I like is Sleep Number. This is the maker of the premium air-chambered mattresses with adjustable firmness settings, a more volatile stock, a more riskier stock, far more highs and lows. But it also has, and it lacks the bottom line consistency that Trex has. But it has been far more aggressive in buying back its stock over the past decade. Not the only measuring stick, obviously, but to me, I think it's, if I was going to say, well, not Trex, Sleep Number is one. I think it's really been, depressed for a while, and I think it could snap back with the next recovery in the real estate turnover market.
So hoping one of you would mention pine trees or something like that, but I guess next time. Thank you to both Jason and Rick. They've given Trex an overall score of 7.8 out of 10, just short of that 8.0 that would force me to own shares. I wouldn't have been sad. It's always on my radar, on my watch list. Look out for a new scoreboard every market day at 7 p.m. Eastern. Next up is Costco. Till then, Fool on.
You guys are
Jason has to be up by 12:05. Let's roll. You guys have places to be. I'm the one with no life, so yes, I don't want to ramble with no reason. So
all right,
all
I
jealous
gotcha.
of your lack of a life, Rick.